encouraging her, especially with this time.
Okay, you're live.
Good evening. I am Mayor Pam Panzavek, Chairperson of the Glen Cove Industrial Development Agency and Local Economic Assistance Corporation. It is Tuesday, September 24th, and we are holding tonight's meeting in person at Glen Cove City Hall in the second floor conference room. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Let us call the meeting to order at 6:14 p.m. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Lisa Travisella.
Here.
Tom Scott.
Here.
Dave Jimenez.
Here.
John Fielding.
Here.
Jim Capiella.
Here.
Vice Chair Hartley.
Here.
Chairperson Panzavek.
I'm here, and as always, this is a great board, and you're always here and so dedicated, so thank you for that. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the IDA LEAC meeting held on July 23rd, 2024, and I ask for a second.
Second.
Motion seconded by Vince Hartley. Are there any questions about the minutes? Will the secretary please poll the board?
Lisa Travisella.
Aye.
Tom Scott.
Aye.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
John Fielding.
Aye.
Jim Capiella.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hartley.
Aye.
And Chairperson Panzavek.
I vote aye. That motion was carried. Luann Fang would please provide the members with their executive director's report.
Hi, everybody. I have a report, it's right here. It's gonna wait till the end of the meeting because we have quite a bit of business to get through. So as soon as we're done with the resolutions, I will go back to my report.
Okay. So tonight's finance report is the Glen Cove IDA LEAC 4-year 2025 budget review. Finance Committee, which is Vice Chair Hartley and John Fielding, met on August 22nd to review the draft budgets with Margot and Ann. Dave Jimenez was on vacation. At this time, the Finance Committee authorized the CFO to present the budget overview to the members.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to go over the IDA budget first. If you could please take a look at Schedule 3 and Schedule 1, the summary budget for the IDA. In terms of the sources of revenue for the IDA, we have admin fee revenue of $178,000, interest of $29,000. We have a total source of revenue of $207,000. Included in the revenue are project consent fees of $150,000 and project annual admin fees of that would be the difference of $28,000. So that would be 26 plus Regency and Keeperman of 2,000. So again, the admin fees are $178,000, interest income of $29,000. And so that's a total revenue of $207,000 in addition to escrow fee revenue of $110,000. So the total revenue for the IDA is $317,000. Again, that's broken up between admin fee revenue, which is broken up between project consent fees and project annual admin fees, interest income of $29,000, and developer funds escrow fees of $110,000. Keep in mind the escrow fees are paid out as professional escrow fee expenses. So again, the total revenues are $317,000. The salaries are projected at $175,000. That's an allocation between the CBA, the IDA, and Section 8. Total professional fees are $132,000. In terms of other expenses of $5,000, that consists of advertising, office expense, copier, computer repair, postage, and travel. So that's $5,000. So there's a change in net position for the year of $4,000. So again, as a recap, we have total revenues of $317,000, total salaries of $175,000, total professional fees of $132,000, total other expenses of $5,000. So there's a change in net position of the year of $4,000. Does anybody have any questions on the IDA?
I have one question actually.
Sure.
So the admin fees, the revenue,
178, and then I see adopted 199 next to it. At fiscal year for like 2023, it's only 58,000. I guess, why do we project so much higher than what we actually land on?
So I can take that if you don't
Go
mind.
ahead.
So every year, we have to do a best guess of projects that we're gonna close on for the year.
Got it.
I expected certain projects to close this year that are not going to close this year.
Yep.
The year before, I expected certain projects to close that we did not close on.
Yeah.
However, it's always a conservative estimate. We never try to project higher than what we believe is going to come in, although that is obviously subject to the projects actually closing. So we did lower our expectations a little bit for next year, which I think makes sense with how the last couple of years have gone. And we're hoping for the best.
I can add that bigger IDAs, it's easier, right? If you have 20 projects a year, you're pretty safe in, assuming it's gonna be about that. But a small IDA like yours, you close 2 or 3 big deals and it's, huge fees.
Yeah.
And it may not, could be zero.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so, and we're always conservative, so.
Thank you.
I have a question on Schedule 3.
Okay.
How do you arrive at these project annual administration fees? Are these standard charges?
Those are standard charges.
Why are they so low?
So I can take this if you don't mind. On our older projects, we had an annual fee of $1,000 a year. I think it was maybe 5 years ago, we took a look at that and we decided to, as a policy, raise that fee to $2,000 a year. Remember, this is an annual admin fee. This is not project closing fees. Project closing fees are the larger fees that we receive when actual financial assistance closes. These, I agree that they're low, but they're sort of in line with the type of fees that IDAs charge annually for these projects. That being said, I'm open to looking at the fees again, but Millen, I don't know if you have anything to add. If you feel that they're too low or.
They're in line with both Nassau County and Town of Hempstead IDA fees. And again, as Dan says, it's supposed to be to defer the sort of, administrative expense going forward. A lot of your projects are much more complicated, but that is sort of the going rate, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So if there are any other questions? If there are no further questions,
That's just
on.
the idea question.
Okay,
Just,
I just packed my up, I'm sorry.
quickly, Glen Cove Local Economic Assistance Corporation, their admin fees are $2,000, interest of $3,500, total use of funds $6,500, which is comprised of an admin fee for the IDA and audit and legal fees of $4,500, a change in deposition of $1,000 for the year. So that's the Glen Cove Local Economic Assistance Corporation. So please let me know if you have any questions. And that would be it.
Okay, thank you, Margot, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. So if there are no further questions on the budgets, let's move on to this evening's unfinished business, which is the IDA application for financial assistance received from 115 Glen Street Property Owner LLC. The application was included in the board member packets. Glenn, Fangman, and/or Millen Tyler. Please provide the members with an overview of this matter.
Does everyone have a copy of the application, a copy of the resolution, and a copy of the preliminary agreement? There's also a cover letter that accompanied the application. I think we have the applicant here tonight. I'll just start by saying that we received, I believe, a draft of the application earlier this year. We went through some rounds of review with the application. Right now, what the applicant is applying for is a 15-year pilot and sales and mortgage reporting tax assistance for 29 units, of which 10% would be affordable and 10% would be workforce housing. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at the application. The resolution tonight is a preliminary resolution, which does not take any actual action on the project. It would allow all of us to move forward with the third-party reports, which would be taking a look at taxes upon completion of the project, economic impact analysis, and sizing of the pilot by Kevin Grims, who works for National Development Council, which is a policy that we've been undertaking for residential projects. Again, if you vote to move forward tonight with the preliminary action, this would allow us to accept the application, move forward with third-party reports, and schedule a public hearing. At the time of the public hearing, we should have drafts of those reports available for the board and the public. Is there anything you want to add, Nolan?
Nope, the applicant is here, although if you recall at the last meeting, we sort of took the step of asking them to make a presentation. So I think you've heard the presentation once, but we've asked them, and based on that and the sort of positive impression Ann and I got, we asked them to submit the application. This would be the next step in that process, and they're here to answer any questions that you have.
Right, and just to be clear, it was not considered a preliminary resolution at the last meeting. It was an introductory meeting with the applicant and the board.
So I have a question. Have you received your planning board approval and your zoning board approval? Because you went from one to the other?
Yes,
They're complete?
yes. Just for everyone remembers, Dan Deegan.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
attorney- Yeah, well, just in case everyone doesn't know, that we have PowerPoints being put that in every principles of the applicant. So thank you very much for having us here today. But yes, no, all approvals have been granted by the city at this point. The last step really is, and we're still a contract vendee, so before we can get financing and close to take over the property, we really need this IDA's assistance, and that's why we're going through this process. Because it doesn't work without it.
The city attorney did have a conversation with the chairperson and I, just to be clear that, and again, this is just minutia, but the planning board resolution, the zoning board resolutions that were passed do have conditions.
Right.
And I believe you're still working on those conditions with the building department.
Yeah, in order to get an actual building permit, we'll have to
Correct.
meet all those. Yep.
That was your understanding as
Yeah.
well?
Anybody else have any other questions?
So those conditions haven't been met?
Well, the typical condition, I'm not even sure what they are, because I didn't handle the zoning side. Do you know what conditions are in there?
The conditions that are related to the issuance of a building permit. There's no other conditions.
So you have to have insurance in place, you have to do,
We have to submit final drawings for the retaining walls, final engineering drawings, and then submit for building permit. And there's some fees that also will be paid
Yeah.
as part of that.
I'm happy to circulate both of those resolutions. I actually just received them yesterday, possibly, or Thursday of last week. So I can circulate those to the board because it's fairly clear with what the conditions are. I mean, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary, just,
They're ministerial in nature.
we can circulate those to the board so they're aware.
Is that it? Are we done? So if there are no more questions, let's move on to new business. There are two new business matters. First, authorizing our very own Ann Fangman to attend IDA Fall 2024 Academy in Westchester on November 7th, 2024, at a member price of $125 plus expenses. Information about the Academy agenda is included in the board member packets. Second matter is the RXR Village Square Settlement Bid Assessment pilot amounts. Will Ann or Millen please provide the members with an update on this matter?
I'll go into it, Millen, and you can augment. Our Village Square pilot agreement has a provision in it that the owner can claim special assessment credit on the actual pilot payment amount. The pilot was in place since 2019, and while RXR was paying the bid assessment tax, it was not getting credited out of their pilot bill. Now, I don't think this was done purposely by either party. I think they did not claim it, and we, were not aware of it. It came down to this year, they brought it to our attention. We were able to ascertain that to date, approximately $67,000 in bid assessment tax had been paid to date. There's a second half of the bid assessment due this year, which would, when paid, bring that amount to $77,000 paid over time in what RXR can claim as special assessment. We had many conversations and discussions and negotiations over this matter. I believe our chairperson was very clear that, we did not want to take the hit all at once for this special assessment, either this year or next. So a settlement was reached with RXR, upon which they will pay the second half of the bid assessment, which will bring their bid taxes paid to date to $77,000. They would then agree to settle the prior amount of $50,000 instead of $77,000. That $50,000 would get spread, instead of all at once in one bill, would get spread over 3 years. So in 2025, 2026, 2027, approximately $16,677, I don't know how I remembered that, will get taken off, if you will, the top of the pilot payments. In addition to that, going forward, they would like to see, as per their agreement, as they pay their bid assessment taxes each year, that amount credited off of the pilot as well. So it settles the prior amount, at a lesser amount. So they're essentially agreeing to take off almost $30,000 off of the prior amount. And instead of that coming out all at once, it would be paid over 3 years. Going forward, we would honor the credit in their pilot bill of what they're paying annually per the bid taxes, and we've discussed this all with the finance department and the mechanism of doing so. And also we've agreed to, as part of the settlement, waive, there was a late charge, some fees and interest, I think it was something like $3,500 that had accrued on the pilot for this year. So that settlement is reflected in the resolution and the agreement? Or is it just going to be a resolution, Millen?
Just resolution. I'll have to reach out to, memorialize it, but these are the terms.
These are the terms. I know that our chairperson fought to have that extended. Originally, RXR had wanted 2 years, and our chairperson really,
Well, we didn't want.
fought for
that would
3.
That would have been difficult for us.
It would have been difficult across the board, and we already have other difficulties with certain pilots going on. So these were the terms of the settlement that were reached, and we're asking the board tonight to approve those terms. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay. So if there are no further questions, I make a motion to adopt resolutions 7A through 7E. 7A, resolution of the Glen Cove IDA adopting the IDA FY 2025 budget. Resolution of the Glen Cove LEAC adopting the LEAC FY 2025 budget. Resolution of the Glen Cove IDA taking preliminary action toward the acquisition and straight leasing of a certain project for 115 Glen Street Property Owner LLC and or its affiliates or related designees, the applicant, and authorizing the execution and delivery of a preliminary agreement with the applicant with respect to such transaction. Millen will clarify that. Okay, if anybody would like that clarified. Resolution of the Glen Cove IDA authorizing the executive director to attend New York State Economic Development Council 2024 Fall IDA Academy on November 7th, 2024 at a member cost of $125 plus mileage and meal expenses. 7E, resolution of the Glen Cove IDA taking official action toward and approving a settlement of certain matters involving a certain project for RXR Glen Cove Village Square Owner LLC. So are there any questions about resolutions 7A through 7E? If there are no further questions, may I have a second to adopt resolutions 7A through 7E? Vince Hartley, motion once again seconded by Vince Hartley. Will the clerk please poll the board?
Lisa Trafatella.
Vote aye on all.
Tom Scott.
Aye.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
John Fielding.
Aye.
Jim Capiello.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hartley.
I vote aye.
And Chairperson Hanson.
I vote aye. So that being said, if there is no further business, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting and I ask for a second.
I will actually, at this time, if it's okay with the board, give my report.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Apologize.
And
Thank you very much.
no, if we went a little out of order, it's me.
I'm so worried about walking off where I am on the table. Is it? I'm sorry, Ann.
No, don't be sorry. I purposely saved this till the
No,
end of
it's
the
great.
meeting, knowing our time constraints. So first, I want to cover fair housing in Janet Lane. The demolition permits and utility markouts are in progress for the duplex on Dixon Street, yes. The application hasn't been received by the building department. However, this was because a Nassau County sewer permit also had to be received, which is in progress, along with, I think it's a last water markout. So it is very much in progress and should be received by the building department hopefully soon. But we're keeping up on it
Because
because
that fire was in June, a year and 4 months.
I think it's 2 years.
Phase two.
Yeah.
Okay, it is.
And as the board recalls, originally they'd asked for a waiver to rebuild the units. This went back and forth for much time. It was decided that they would rebuild the units, but most importantly, the building needs to get demolished because it's an eyesore and a hazard. And, you know, the neighbors have been in communication with us over time, and we want to see this happen as quickly as possible. Garvey's Point Brewery, there's been some progress made toward closing with the new property owner. IDA Council, Millen, has advised that the new trustee for the Garvey's Point bonds has agreed to execute the bifurcation agreement. RXR has made some payments toward arrears. Full payment of arrears will be confirmed prior to closing. And RXR, IDA, and the city have a public use easement area issue to be resolved prior to closing as well. Garvey's Point Block F, affordable condominiums. Georgia B. Green Ventures provided a draft regulatory agreement from the New York State Housing and Community Renewal Office. Comments from Georgia B. Green and IDA Council were circulated. IDA Council and Capital Market Advisors will be working with our underwriter, Morgan Stanley, to discuss a path forward for the project with the new Garvey's Point trustee for the bonds. IDA staff and Georgia B. Green set a tentative date of November 12th, IDA meeting to bring related issues to the board for resolution. We hope to make that date. It might be a little bit ambitious, but that's what we're working towards. Garvey's Point bonds, underwriter update. Myself, Millen, and CMA conference with Morgan Stanley on the engagement letter yet to be executed. While we are able to work through most issues, some liability and indemnities require further discussion with council. Finally, the Glen Cove Villas, LLC. Since the forbearance period commenced, numerous project changes have been introduced but have not been documented. To date, the IDA office has received development and construction agreements between G2D and Minoj Narang. Allegedly, these agreements have been terminated, but documentation has not been received as such. Ken McAvoy of MacX, you met him at an IDA meeting, has been working on site under the supervision of the building department director. Insurance certificates for MacX were provided to the city and IDA. However, agreements between MacX and Minoj have not yet been received by my office, but have been requested numerous times. The temporary restraining order on the newly filed mechanics lien naming the IDA has a hearing scheduled for October 17th. Numerous calls regarding such matters have been referenced to IDA council.
I have a very quick update, which is that the contractor who did all the excavation, the one who filed the mechanics lien, called me today. And
D-Best?
Yes, D-Best is the name of the contractor. Their controversy comes down to who hired them. Was it Glen Cove Villa, or was it the quote managing agent, RWAG? And believe it or not, there's no written contract. So this company did $1 million worth of work, that's what they're claiming, and there's no written contract. So it may not be very clear who exactly hired them. That's the first controversy. The second one is one that I think all of you had sort of hinted at before. What happened to what they excavated? What they excavated apparently was primarily sand. And D-Best has agreed to give Glen Cove Villas a credit for the value of the sand. But the question is, what is the value of the sand? Was it, tainted with salt water because it's so close to the harbor? Was it filled with rocks and twigs and that kind of stuff? So there's no contract there either. These guys just took it someplace and got some money, or money changed hands. So it's not clear what the value of the soil is going to be. At the end of the day, what I said to him was, I don't care. I don't want to be involved in this. So get us removed. As you'll recall, and the attorney admits, he agreed in court to remove the IDA from the litigation, and he signed a stipulation doing so. His client then objected, saying, you can't get rid of the IDA there for whatever reason. So the attorney went and refiled the same lien against us, so now we're back in, and that's part of the controversy. So I'm in communication with their counsel to get the IDA either dismissed or at least have them acknowledge that we are a nominal party only, that they can foreclose out, if they end up getting that far, the IDA's interest, lease and lease back. But what I don't want is them naming us, deposing anyone, coming after us for judgment, any of those kind of things. So again, that's all in process. Where they land between now and December 10th or so, which is coming up pretty quickly, when the forbearance period ends, is going to be another story.
So there's no work going on right now?
No, there is work going on. So our building department directors sent pictures today. They were shoring up the excavation on the Glen Cove Avenue side. I saw wooden retaining walls. He's been describing, Scott Krupp, our building department director, work that's been done to shore up the excavations on site. My understanding is that there's a verbal stop work order, and the only work that's supposed to be happening right now is the excavation work to shore up those excavations. There's a Muser Rutledge report that was produced that said that certain deficiencies at the site had to be corrected. And my understanding is that's the work that needs to be corrected first, but that they are coming into the building department or have already come to the building department with new permits for basically excavation and foundation work, which would be the next phase. I still am looking for the documentation behind all the phone calls I'm receiving on a regular basis. Actual agreements, terminations of agreements.
Why don't they just donate it to the city for a community pool? The whole is in ready? I mean,
There's a lot of talk going on, but the paper needs to confirm what's going on. So we did get insurance for the contractor who's working on site, and we reviewed the insurances and followed up to make sure that our requirements are being met. I know the city did the same. No equity change has been made on the project that we are aware of.
Correct. We keep asking for exactly the documents the name's talking about, and remind them that any equity change requires the IDA consent, and we've been told that there has been none.
I'm told that a loan was secured, but I have not seen documentation, and that has been requested as well. A construction loan.
And October 17th is the court date.
That's the hearing date on the temporary restraining order, right?
Now, the judge may or may not rule on that date, that's the date they're supposed to come in and argue as to whether or not the restraining order says, don't do anything more with your lien until I can figure out who owes who, how much money. And again, I'm trying not to get involved, because that just runs up the fees for no good reason, but if the IDA is a party, then we will be involved. But if they can make it clear that we're not a party, my answer is fight it out, do what you have to do. But, I apologize, when the forbearance period ends, then unless you choose to extend it yet again, then, you know, Ann and I are gonna come to you and say, here's what we know. Here's the status of the litigation, here's the status of the contractor, here's the status of the financing, you know, all the things that you said had to be in place by that date, we're gonna give you an update. So really, there's nothing to be done now, we're just giving you the ongoing saga, but, you know, we're now 2.5 months away from that drop dead date.
But if we're still named on the lien at the end of the forbearance period, couldn't that be considered a default
Yes,
on the agreement?
it could, at a minimum, I've asked them to get us removed as anything other than a nominal party. But
That I
certainly don't-
understand.
Right.
But if we're still named in the same way we are now,
Mhm.
we have to seriously consider that.
I would worry about that,
That's
and,
fine.
you know, that'd be an issue for the board. One of many.
Right.
Is that it?
Is that
I was ready to adjourn.
I should have ended on a positive note, I'm sorry.
Enjoy your trip.
Yeah, the workshop is gonna be great.
Enjoy your
It's
workshop.
not, so I haven't been
That's
driving
why they
in a couple
approved
of
the
years, I'm
workshop.
driving to Ossining and home in the same day, it's not really like a fun,
Yeah, right.
but, you know.
All these
Don't tell me
meals.
how bad it is to drive from here to
It's
Westchester.
Millen's
every
normal
day.
commute, it's Millen's normal commute.
All right, so, that was a fun conversation. If there's no further business, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting, and I ask for a second. Motion seconded by Vince Hartley. Will the secretary please poll the board?
Lisa Capitella.
Aye.
Tom Scott.
Aye.
Dave Jimenez.
Aye.
John Fielding.
Aye.
Jim Capello.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hartley.
Aye.
And Chairperson Hanson.
I vote aye, so the motion is carried, and the meeting is adjourned at 6:47 PM. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for the great uplifting news.